Hello, and welcome to People Keep Dying, a podcast where we talk about people who die. I'm your host, Angela.
And I'm Stephanie.
And today I'd like to, also do a shout out to the podcast Undercover Coven, who are very sweet girls.
Yeah, they shouted out our podcast. Oh my God, by the time this goes out, it was weeks ago. But they shouted out your Korean mall collapsing.
Yeah, that's Hampung department store collapsing. Yeah. And I really, I think they're so cute. And I think they're both Chilean, but I know one still lives in Chile. And I love it when I listen to people from different cultures speak about different things because they just have so many different perspectives of how death works.
Yeah,
I guess.
And it's also they have the cultural perspective of what's going on in that area that we as me as a white woman from Canada doesn't have.
Yeah.
That I super appreciate. And
So
they thought we were funny. I think they're funny.
So thank you.
Yeah, that's the Undercover Coven.
Yes, podcast. And this week, I got ourselves I don't know what this is, so we'll figure it out after I talk about it.
Okay.
This happens in the States. So my person's name is Yoshi Hattori, who's often referred to as Yoshi Hattori, which is going to be easier for me to say because Yoshi is a pretty common name that most kids should know from gaming.
They're not kids anymore, Angela. We've grown up and we're now adults.
But people still play Mario games who are kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. And
kids shouldn't be listening to this podcast. If you're under the age of 16.
No, 16's too old.
What age do you think is appropriate?
I don't know.
To just hijack your story
watched
here.
a ton of America's.
That doesn't mean it's appropriate.
Wanted.
Listen, okay.
I turned out not a killer.
If you're under the age of 16, turn this podcast off right now. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, go back to your story. I'm sorry for cutting in.
It's okay. So Yoshi was born in Nagoya, Japan on November 22nd, 1975. He was one of three children born to Masashi Hattori, an engineer, and his wife, Maiko. And that's basically the only background I can give you because that's all I got. So at the age of 16, Yoshi went to Baton Rouge in August 1992 as a part of an American Field Service student exchange program. And that's where a family takes you in, basically, and you live with them so you can, live in the culture and everything.
Yeah.
He had also received a scholarship from the Morito Foundation for his trip. His hosts were Richard Haymaker, a college professor, and his wife Holly, a physician, and their teenage son Webb, which
I love the name Webb.
I think it's kind of a crazy name. My name's Webb, but whatever. So on October 17th, 1992, and technically this could have been one of my Halloween murders, but it didn't happen on Halloween.
Yeah.
It happened at a Halloween party. So on October 17th, 1992, Yoshi and Webb were invited to Halloween organized party by Japanese exchange students. And Yoshi and Webb sound like there should be a cartoon, detective team or something.
It needs to be the dinosaur and the spider.
Yes.
Some ancient, because those fucking spiders back in dinosaur times were so big.
They were probably at least the size of three of us, and
there were probably
terrifying.
raptor killing spiders. Mm-hmm. Just saying, because we've got kangaroo killing spiders now, and that is horrifying.
So we just go bigger because dinosaurs were bigger.
Someone needs to start that comic, the spider and the dino spider.
Well, unfortunately, this story does not end up with a happy ending.
We shouldn't laugh.
Of course not.
Serious time.
So Yoshi dressed as John Travolta's character in Saturday Night Fever, a white tuxedo. So it's nothing too intimidating. If you see this kid, he's in a costume.
It's the white undies and the white tuxedo shirt,
right? I need to very specifically point out what he's wearing because what happens next is really fucking ridiculous. Okay. And by the way, Yoshi, because he's a Japanese student, you can kind of figure is kind of a shorter stature, very skinny, 130-pound kid. All right. So keep that in mind in a white tuxedo like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever costume.
Okay. I had the wrong image. I had Tom Cruise and Risky Business in my head.
Okay. It's the whole white tuxedo with the hair. Yeah.
Okay.
So at 8 p.m., as they arrived for the party, there was a little confusion and they ended up at the wrong residence. The residence of Rodney Pearis, a 30-year-old supermarket butcher.
Oh, no.
Yoshi and Webb rang the doorbell and no one came to the front door. Rodney's wife, Bonnie, opened the side door leading to the carport and saw Webb. Webb was dressed in bandages and a neck brace because he had previously been injured, and the bandages were just part of his costume.
Okay.
He tried to make contact with Bonnie, but she panicked when Yoshi started briskly walking towards her. And you have to remember that Yoshi obviously doesn't really speak English that well because he is an exchange student.
Yeah.
Bonnie freaked out and slammed the door, telling Rodney to get his gun. And you can see, kind of figure out where it was going to happen from here. But just so you can get more mad, I'll tell you.
Oh, is this racially charged?
It's not. I don't know if it was racially charged, but it was definitely not supposed to happen.
Okay, well, that, like, it just seems, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand the reaction of, like, when you see a stranger and you're just, like, immediately,
you
like,
close the
get
door,
your gun.
You close the door and you get your gun.
Yeah.
But, okay. This feels like an extreme reaction since, it's 8 p.m. and the kid's clearly dressed up.
Yeah.
He's not wearing, like, even a hoodie or,
So was he dressed up, like, as a mummy? Or?
No, like, Webb was dressed up as a mummy, but Yoshi was dressed as John Travolta.
Yeah.
So he's not intimidating looking. And it's 8 p.m. It's not even that late. So as Yoshi and Webb started to walk back to their car, wondering if they came to the wrong house, the carport door opened. Rodney, armed with a .44 Magnum revolver, had come out.
What?
Yoshi stepped towards Rodney saying, "We're here for the party." Rodney yelled, "Freeze," and Webb saw the gun. So Yoshi had very limited English and didn't have his contact lenses in, so he couldn't really see very well.
Yeah.
So when Webb yelled out to Yoshi to warn him off, Yoshi kept moving towards Rodney because he doesn't know. It's also possible that Yoshi thought that Rodney was pulling a prank, and it is Halloween, and tricking is part of the holiday.
Yeah.
Yoshi,
I mean, possibly.
Yeah. Yoshi also had a camera in his hand. And by the way, a camera doesn't look like a gun. Just saying. Which Rodney claimed he mistook for a weapon. From 5 feet away, Rodney shot Yoshi in the chest and went back into his home.
Oh, what did he?
He just shot him and went back to his house.
What about the other kid?
No, he just shot Yoshi because Yoshi was the one who walked towards him. Yep.
I just, like, why would you not then? I don't understand. You shoot the one kid because you clearly thought that you were in danger. And then
you close the door. And
then you just turn around and close the door. But, like, what about the other kid?
Why do you have to get out of the house and shoot the kid at all? It's not like they were trying to break into his house.
No. I understand that because, even the whole beginning of it. But, like, to just shoot him and then turn around and walk back in, like, then you obviously didn't really feel like you were in danger. Because you didn't deal with
the other guy. Yeah.
The second, quote unquote, like, assumed assailant who's trying to break into your home, and I assume, like, you probably thought was like rape your wife. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, but ringing your doorbell at 8 p.m. was afraid that some kids dressed up in Halloween costumes were gonna be a danger to you.
I mean, but it wasn't on Halloween, so maybe that was a little shocking.
He was in Halloween
still.
costume. It's October. You expect people in costumes, and
I don't know. I think I wouldn't like shoot anybody, but I would think it was weird if someone showed up on my door.
I would think it's weird, but I'd be like, you must be in the wrong. If you're really scared, you call the cops. You don't pull out a gun and shoot someone.
Call your husband to get his gun. You just go in and close the door and lock
the
it,
doors,
and then go
call
get
the
your
cops.
phone, and then you tell them to leave. And if they don't leave, you say, "I'm going to call the cops," and you call the cops.
Yeah, you don't shoot someone who's in your or whatever. Anyways, so when the neighbor, like, Webb ran to the neighboring house and asked for help. When the neighbors returned with Webb, they found Yoshi badly wounded and lying on his back. When the neighbors came, Bonnie kept yelling at the neighbors to go away. Rodney and Bonnie did not come out of their house until 40 minutes later when the police arrived. They basically shot the kid, went back in their house, and acted like it didn't happen.
I mean, now, in defense of the guy, it's very possible that he didn't mean to shoot the kid. because I don't know the rest of the story. It's very possible he didn't mean to shoot the kid, but he shot the kid and immediately panicked and went back in the house and was like, and told his wife, I shot him. And then they were like, we just need to stand here until the police arrive, and then we'll deal with it then. Like, I mean, I've
no, he definitely knew he was. He definitely knew. I think if you have a gun in your hand and you have your finger in the trigger, you have every intention to shoot someone.
Yes, but maybe not.
No.
Like, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt that it's possible that he didn't actually mean to shoot the kid, but maybe it was a scare tactic.
That's not part of this story. In this specific instance, and from what he's told the police as well, I don't know
the rest of the story.
He definitely knew he was shooting the kid.
Okay, well then that's
There's none of that.
Yeah, I didn't know the rest of the story.
None of it. So
I was trying.
Yoshi died in the ambulance minutes later. You shouldn't be on his side. That's fucking ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
There's no reason to ever shoot someone.
No, there really isn't.
Like if someone's entering your home through a broken window, you shoot them because they're breaking into your house. I get that, but if someone is knocking your front door and then they don't try to walk in, and then you close the door and they're not trying to break into your house, I don't know why you go out there and shoot them.
Yeah, no.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's crazy. It was just, when I said that I was trying to be on his side, it was the going back into the house immediately after that's what I meant. Like, I was trying to understand why he just walked right back into the house.
Because you killed someone. He still killed someone.
Sorry, I'm still trying to understand the psychology behind that. That's what
I think it's just like, it was a shock that he killed someone.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he didn't intend to shoot him.
No.
Definitely. I just didn't think he ever shot someone before.
Very
he just
possible.
didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people have never shot anyone, I assume.
Was it a situation where like they were having an issue with like people vandalizing their house? Like,
no,
they didn't have any previous. Okay,
so
that.
This is it wasn't like that previous story I did where they had he had issues with the girl who was vandaling the house and then he killed her.
I wasn't sure if maybe there was
none of that,
a previous something that would have provoked this, but this is like a 1000% unprovoked.
Just killed someone in front of your house.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah. And didn't shoot the other person. So obviously did not think, as you said, didn't think there were that much danger.
Okay.
So initially after the incident, the local police released Rodney of all charges because it was within his rights to shoot the trespasser. That's what they said.
Now, I think that's like law for them.
It is.
And it's on their property, right? But here's the problem is that they never told them to leave.
No. And
did they?
The guy said freeze.
But he never said like, get off my property?
I think no.
Then I don't know the law, but I would feel like you can't just shoot someone that's on your property. You have to tell them to leave.
Well, I mean, that's apparently what they're trying to say. And I'm like, what if there was a little kid cutting your lawn, walking to school? Do you shoot them too? On your property, right? It's situational because the kid was, okay, whatever.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's how they would do it. Is like, you can't make that argument because that's super situational, but like.
And by the way, this isn't the USA, right? So we're supposed to be a first world country. We're not supposed to just be able to shoot whoever the hell you want.
That's
just saying. I just want everyone to remember that this isn't like, oh, well, this must be in like a third world country where they don't have laws. Oh, this is the US where there are no
the fact that you say that this in the US is probably why it makes so much sense that this happened. Because this happens so much.
So it was only after the Louisiana governor, Edwin Edwards, and the Japanese consulate general in New Orleans protested that Rodney was charged with manslaughter, which he should have been in the first place.
Yeah, he should have been in the first place.
And at least manslaughter.
Not first degree murder.
But manslaughter for sure, because there was no premeditation. His defense with Yoshi was and had an extremely unusual manner of moving, and that any reasonable person would find him scary. But to paint a picture, Yoshi is an 130-pound unarmed Japanese boy, and Rodney is a 6'2" well-armed man. A 30-year-old 6'2" man was scared of his tiny Japanese boy
in a white tuxedo
that was very clearly a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
So okay.
I mean, you have some intimidation issues.
And from 5 feet away. It's not like from really far away, 5 feet away, easily could
How
have
long
disarmed
ago
him.
was this?
This was in this is the wrong paper.
But it's okay. So, but it's not within the last 10 years, because I would definitely say if it was in the last 10 years,
It was
like
in 1992.
maybe he watches a lot of Fox News or something like that.
It was in
and he's
1992. It's okay, because he said, I'm very sorry that any of this ever happened. I'm like, I'm very sorry I killed this person. This person's dead now because of me.
Yeah, no, you're not.
A lot of people then and now sympathize with Rodney, as I've read a lot of comments on YouTube, and everyone was just like, well, he paid his dues, and he's really remorseful. And I'm like, but he still killed someone.
I mean, okay, in the defense of because in the justice system, justice is never going to give people the actual justice that they want.
No,
because our justice system isn't built for that. So in the justice system, it is a thing where you go, you pay your crime, you become remorseful, then they let you out.
And because he was already remorseful,
yeah.
And that's why I wrote down here. So remember, kids, if you sound genuinely remorseful that you shot and killed a child, it's okay.
Well, no, nobody's saying that it's okay. But
that's what the whole trial tells me. Guess what?
I mean, that's just...
Yep. So
that's just what history has told us, is that you can kill someone and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Police testified that Rodney had said, "Boy, I messed up. I made a mistake."
Jeffrey Dahmer said
the
same thing when he got caught by the police.
And it's like a mistake that led to the death of a child. He's a 16-year-old child. Someone's child.
You know what? Other people have made bigger mistakes that have led to death that can make that statement.
Sorry.
Your mistake was going and getting that fucking gun.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have ever gotten it.
But
get a baseball bat.
No, don't worry though. The defense was blaming his wife.
Are you?
Oh
my God, did she divorce him?
I couldn't find any information, but I think she eventually did.
Oh, fuck,
The defense argues that Bonnie was the main reason Rodney felt shooting was necessary. She said, Yoshi was coming real fast towards me. I had never had somebody come at me like that before. I was terrified. Well, close the fucking door and call the cops.
Yeah. Yeah. Get a baseball bat.
Yeah.
If you're going to open up your carport and come on. Or
but she just peeped through and then saw him walking toward. She could close the door,
I've got the phone. I'm gonna call the police.
Yeah,
anything, get off my property.
Literally
get away
anything.
from me.
She could still call the cops.
Yeah.
The cops would have still shown up.
Yeah,
and then maybe there would have been the kid could have gotten hurt from the cops or something, but he wouldn't have died.
Even hopefully. If the kid, because if you had been holding a baseball bat, the kid would have probably been able to recognize the baseball bat.
The thing was that before Rodney showed up, they were like, maybe we're at the wrong house, and they turned around.
Yeah.
Thinking about, so if they just waited a little longer, the kids would have just left, and that would have been it.
Yeah, but I mean, that wife was probably, maybe that wife was probably fucking freaking out in that house.
And then that's what he's saying. That's what the defense is saying, that it was because of her overreaction. That's the reason why Rodney had felt like he had to shoot Yoshi. And it's mentioned, I want to mention one more time that Bonnie had already closed the door, and Yoshi never made any physical contact with any of these two. Yeah. Never. He never got close enough to touch any of them.
She closed the door, and he was like, maybe I'm at the wrong house, and then turned around and started walking away.
And probably talked to Webb and was like, are we in the wrong house? And then when the carport opened again, it's like, well, maybe we are in the right house. So if they had just left the door closed and never came out, there would be no story.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I definitely think that the wife was probably in hysterics in there and probably built it up. But
but the blame was put squarely on her shoulders as to why he shot her.
Because you went out there and as a grown ass fucking man reassessed that situation and then realized
these are adults. She's 27, I think, and he's 30. They're not.
I'm not going to say anything about the wife because I don't know her situation. She may have actually been scared. Who the fuck knows? It's 8 o'clock at night. Maybe it was a little dark, and maybe
it probably was dark.
Didn't see what she thought she saw, and she just got scared about someone approaching. She probably didn't realize that he was Japanese, and she was probably just a little racist,
and probably just saw a white suit walking towards her. Yeah, who knows?
Because maybe she thought it was a black person, and maybe she thought that someone was coming to rob her house.
And there was still a lot of anti-Japanese Chinese sentiments during that time as well.
It's the 90s was a very like heated time when it comes to like racism and stuff like that. So that's why I had asked, was it like racially charged?
They never mentioned anything about race, but I looked for it to see if like maybe it was, because you know it is. But then from what I understand, it's just because he was the one closest to them.
Those Southern police officers are obviously going to let the white guy go,
which is exactly what happened.
Oh my gosh, no.
All right.
Okay, so they're blaming the wife.
So it's because it's like, instead she shot out to her husband like when she saw this kid coming and saying like, hey, go get the gun, because the only reasonable response to a person walking towards you is telling someone to go get a gun and shoot them.
Go get the gun.
I'm like,
no.
You know what? I've had a lot of people walk towards me before, but they walk by or they're lost. I never thought to myself, I should shoot that person just in case.
I've never really had the thought of shooting anybody ever either.
No, but I guess I also don't own a gun.
No.
So,
and I've never touched one and don't ever plan on ever doing it either.
So Rodney on his part didn't hesitate or question his wife, retrieving his gun with a laser sight that was stored in a suitcase in the bedroom. So he was way over, you know, it was just like, it wasn't just like a gun, but it was just like to make sure that, you know, you get your target, the laser sight on the gun as well.
Why do you need to have a laser on your hand?
To make sure you kill people.
It's a handgun,
It's
right?
a handgun.
Yeah.
So Bonnie was saying, like in apparently hysterics and tears, there was no thinking involved. I wish I could have thought if I just had thought.
I totally believe
I
that
do
she
believe
didn't.
that she...
That is...
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
I think it's within her rights for her to overreact the way, but I think there were two adults there and no one should have gotten a gun.
The man that wasn't overreacting...
should have calmly thought to himself, why do I need a gun?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah. So,
but I mean, I don't know. But she probably does feel really bad, and I bet she's gonna live with that for the rest of her life. Probably after she just had her husband blame her for it. That probably caught her off guard too.
Maybe not. Maybe they agreed to that defense because they're trying to get him off, right? So
it depends on if she stays with them.
Rodney's attorney concluded his argument saying, "We have a legal right to open the door holding a gun to anyone when the doorbell rings. This is the law of this country." I did not know that.
And he didn't open up his door. Well, yeah, he opened up his door and then walked out onto his yard. It's like...
No, he didn't walk onto his yard.
Oh, he
opened the door, the carport door, and then Yoshi started walking towards him, and then he shot him.
Okay.
But then I do think that there's no reason. Like he was 5 feet away. There could have been... At that point, he would have seen this kid. And could have easily seen that this was in the 90s. No one wears a white tuxedo in the 90s for fun. You know what I mean? Like, you can't even be like, no, he was in a costume. You can clearly tell. We had a drunk person try to come into our apartment once because they were drunk and they tried to get into the wrong apartment. I didn't think to myself at one point I should bash his head in just in case. Like, no,
it's just like,
you just close the door. You're like, wrong apartment, dude, and that's it.
No.
And then they eventually leave.
Were they on drugs? Like,
they never say anything about drugs or anything. So the trial lasted 7 days, and the jury returned with a not guilty verdict after 3 hours.
Was the jury all white?
Probably. The courtroom spectators broke into applause because fuck all of you.
Wow.
That's how much they believe that it's more important to have a gun than someone dying because
that's probably that's probably what it was all about, was people were trying to make it into a you should own guns thing.
Yes.
And you can't, for whatever reason, do that in the States. You can't ever say that you don't need guns. And listen, nobody needs to own a gun.
No.
I don't even believe in hunting. I don't even think that humans deserve to have guns to shoot animals, because you survived without guns killing animals for so long with like bows and arrows, which I don't necessarily think is good. You don't kill animals either. Like, because why? Why does the humans have this like innate need to kill? I
understand the feeling having an innate need to kill. Like when I first met Nick, I told him I wanted to own a gun because I'm American. Like that's what I feel
It's like you're
It's a right. Even though I'm pretty liberal, like the gun, I've never held a gun though, and I've never shot anyone, and I've never owned a gun. But I've always been curious of what it feel like to, like, I guess shoot at a target, not at a person or an animal, but shoot at a target. And it's one of those things where it's like I understand like maybe a handgun if depending on like I guess what kind of situation you're in, or I'm not really sure what you're doing.
I'm sure it's like a glorified, like
But
they glorified in the media.
it is,
and then
for sure. You
as,
watch a
like,
ton
some
of
beautiful,
movies.
passionate like thing, and you get this rush when you shoot a gun, and maybe you do.
Maybe you
Maybe
do.
there's a power play where you feel like, you know, secure and safe, and like I'm sure there's a power behind it that makes people feel good.
And people are just basically like, well,
but
when bad
it's-
guys don't own guns, it's like bad guys will always own something worse than you.
Yeah.
Always. But anyways, since the criminal court failed Yoshi, a civil action was brought and found Rodney liable to Yoshi's parents for $650,000.
Oh.
Which I
cost
appreciate
of-
the fact that they won, but it's like a little sad and disgusted that there's now a price tag on this kid's life.
I wonder, like, and I always find it so interesting of like how they come up with that number, because
Yeah.
like if you were to ask like, how much do you think your life is worth?
You never just think it's less than $1 million.
At least they got more than 500,000.
I guess.
Like at least they got anything.
Well, they're definitely not going to get all of it.
Yeah.
Because he's a supermarket butcher. He's not going to make enough money to ever pay it off.
And he's definitely he's not going to pay.
And
that
he's
off.
definitely not going to be able to find a very stable job for a very long time after this, because he did end up on the news. And people, even if people aren't on his side, you don't want to hire someone who just is that trigger.
trial on media.
Yeah. So
Because, well, actually, I don't know, because he wasn't convicted. Because I know here that like you have to like mark it on like your job applications.
he won't have to ever mark it in the job
yeah.
applications, but like everyone in the area would know his name because he would have showed up on the news a lot, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the coverage at that point.
Depends on
So
the company.
his parents used these funds to establish 2 charitable funds in his son's name, because obviously it wasn't about the money. It was just the fact
No,
that they
wanted
needed
justice.
something. They just needed to win. They didn't want to feel like it wasn't a complete.
Yeah.
His life wasn't a waste.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what it is.
That his death wasn't a waste. Not necessarily his life. His death wasn't a waste.
So one was to fund U.S. high school students wanting to visit Japan, and another was to fund organizations that lobby for gun control. Because obviously, after this happened, his parents became very pro gun control, and I don't blame them.
I can't imagine that they're super happy with the way gun control's going now.
So the lawyers argued that Rodney and Bonnie acted unreasonably to the presence of 2 teenage boys, and Rodney has used his firearm too quickly. Which, yes. Also, let's point out that Yoshi would have easily been physically subdued by Rodney without a gun if he truly feared for his life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you could have even, like, not even that I would want you to, like, take a knife out there, because then you probably would have stabbed him. But, like, you could have taken anything.
He didn't even need anything.
You didn't even need anything. You could have just gone out there. Like, you're a 6'2" dude.
And you're a butcher, so you do have, like, some strength to you, I'd assume, because, butchers are pretty strong.
Yeah.
So
I really thought the story was going to go that Yoshi was going to get cut up. Like, I thought they were going to kill him. Him and the wife.
But then the problem was that during this time, also, forensics had found that Rodney's testimony of Yoshi walking towards him quickly was false. Forensic evidence demonstrated that Yoshi was either moving slowly or not at all, and his arms were away from his body, indicating that he was no threat. So Rodney literally just killed the kid.
Yeah.
Rodney and Bonnie tried to appeal the decision, but the Louisiana Court of Appeals upheld the decision in October 1995. The second appeal was rejected by the Supreme Court of Louisiana in January 1996. Like, they're trying to appeal it because they don't want to pay the money, because obviously they don't have it. And it sucks, because it's like the parents get dragged back in over and over again.
Yeah, and they keep collecting up more, like, fees and stuff like that. And, yeah.
So of the $650,000 judgment, the insurance company paid out $100K, leaving Rodney personally responsible for remaining $550K. During the trial, knowing that he would never be able to pay the full amount of, from his supermarket job, Rodney said he would never own a gun again.
Oh,
Thank
well, I'm glad that you'll never own a gun again, but how is that going to pay the other $550,000?
So super interesting that I learned from this is that right after Yoshi died, this
Yeah.
is when they passed the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. And apparently before this point, you didn't need anything to purchase a gun. This act required gun purchasers to show identification when purchasing firearms at a gun shop. So until this
Louisiana,
point, in the entire U.S. So apparently,
that's only from the 90s.
90s. So apparently, until 1993 in November, you could be anybody, walk anywhere and be like, "I'd like to buy a gun,
could
please."
go into Walmart and just buy a fucking gun.
Yes, you don't need an ID. You don't track. That's
is
terrifying.
ridiculous.
Did not know that. And it was largely due to the momentum built by the 1.7 million Japanese and 250K American signatures on a petition calling for action. Because they're like, what the fuck? What do you mean? You can just go buy a gun. You can just go to a gun store and be like, "I like a gun, please." Oh, you look 18.
Oh my
you might.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about age restrictions.
No,
because
you
America just believed everybody could have a gun.
Gun, yeah. So literally,
man.
you could just buy. Yeah.
Damn MRA.
So President Bill Clinton met with the Hattoris in November 1993 during this time to discuss gun control matters. And that's the same time that the gun law passed. But let that sink in, because I just can't believe it. You could buy a gun with just cash. Just go in and be like, "Yep, I'd like a gun, please. I'd like to buy 10 guns, please. And all the ammunition you have in here, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'd like all of it."
I thought it was crazy in the story from last week that like you could just go and buy dynamite.
Yeah. But no, you could apparently during that time, you could have also just bought a gun.
Yeah. Just,
I don't know what the laws are in
gosh.
Canada, like when the stuff happen, the gun control laws happen here, but until 1993, that's what it was.
I don't know. I don't know gun laws in Canada because like
I want to know
it was just not something I was ever exposed
I want to meet the people who fought against this act, who voted against
the NRA.
it. Yeah, I want to know. I want to sit down and talk to someone who's just like, yeah, I think anyone should just be allowed to buy a gun. I'm like,
the people still are fucking swarm everywhere and say that down there. Like they fill up the message boards and tweet about it, about how like everybody should have a gun. Everyone.
So this could be the wild, wild west. We definitely have not evolved since the 1800s.
We haven't really evolved
at all.
Like our technology has.
I mean, I guess we do
but...
have the like biological instinct to kill, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's where it comes from. But I do think that we don't need it at this point. A 2013 source reports that Rodney had lost his home and his supermarket job and was living in a trailer park. That's the only information I could find about him. I could find nothing about Bonnie. They're living their lives now. Like they were tried and they were, even if you disagree with whatever, they're free now. So it's like, leave them alone, I guess, because whatever.
They did their time.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are worse people out there that are living out there after paying their dues than this guy. It's just that's how the justice system works. They can't sit in jail forever.
Nope.
Because we no longer believe in killing people that kill other people.
Of course not. No.
See, I do believe that.
See, that I think the problem.
Eye for an eye.
I think the problem always came down to the fact that sometimes the justice system works against you, and so even if you're innocent, you're tried.
Yes, I understand that there are those situations,
that's the reason
and
why.
People will always pervert the law. However, if you are caught killing someone,
like
you get the death, like you get to die. Sorry, that's just how I feel.
At least first degree murder. Manslaughter is kind of those things where it's like if you hit someone with a car and then it's like, and then they're jaywalking, then I don't know. Because I always get that feeling.
Were you drunk?
Dry.
Or was it like?
When it was really dark and they were wearing black. Like I always think that when I'm driving at dark in the dark, I won't see someone because they're wearing like a black parka, and I'll stop. I've never hit someone, but I'm always like worried that one day I'm gonna accidentally.
Because if you hit anybody with a car, you're liable.
100%. Yeah.
Doesn't matter the situation. It's you're in trouble. And I was just the first time I heard that, I was like, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, because someone could just jump in front of your car to kill themselves, which they do.
They do all the time
liable.
in China and Russia from all those cam videos I've seen. All those dash cam videos I've seen, for sure they do. I love it when they like act like they got run over. Oh my gosh. And they're like, I have dash cam evidence of you being a dick bag.
So great.
But anyways, Yoshi's parents and his American host parents, the Haymakers, went to become active campaigners for gun law reform because, of course.
Yeah.
A year after Yoshi's death, his old classmate, Keisuke Nishikawa, went to study in the U.S. and took part in local campaigns for stricter gun control laws. When asked years later about the mass Las Vegas shooting that happened in October 1st, 2012 or 17, Keisuke remarked, "Nothing changes. I guess these shootings will just keep going on forever."
Yeah.
And I can't really blame him for saying that.
There was a tweet that I had seen, or someone had said, like, it doesn't matter anymore. Once they shot up the kids in that public school, and the kindergartners, once 5-year-old Sandy Hook, once Sandy Hook happened, that was the downfall. They're never going to be able, because you proved that killing children wasn't even enough for you to change your gun laws.
And some dickbags can go out there and act like it didn't happen.
Now you've got Sandy Hook deniers and all the different stuff. But
and like, fuck you. I swear to God, if you're listening to this and you're a Sandy Hook denier, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't want you as a listener. That's just.
But no, people are always going to pick profits over human life.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just going to keep killing people and getting access to guns. And you're going to keep having people in your government that for whatever reason
Money, we've talked about
just
this.
Matters more.
Money is more important. It's literally in the first episode we said money is more important than people, and it's always true.
No, 100%.
It's always going to be true.
It really is.
Yeah.
And both of my fucking my next story is just money mattered more.
Yeah, money matters more than people.
Like,
yep.
And it's so sad because I don't think that money should matter more than people, and it's never gonna get better.
Mm-mm.
Not until fucking another comet comes and wipes out everything, and we get rid of our technology, and we have to start over again.
Did you watch a TV show, Terra Nova? They still had deaths on that show.
Pardon? Yeah, but I mean, like, once like our civilization has to like start over again, and like the whole concept of money is gone. That'll probably be the, but they'll kill for something else.
But then they'll just kill for something else, and then money there'll always be a sort of trade that happens.
Yeah, there'll always be power.
There's always pretty rocks that they traded back in the days, right? So
let's kill over the hay.
Another of Yoshi's old classmates, Akiki Minami, said, "There are some kind of foreign culture that we can't understand, but that doesn't mean we don't respect them. I also understand that gun issues in the U.S. is difficult to resolve. I think Americans do want to resolve it somehow. It's too bad they haven't been able to get things moving in earnest."
I think that that's true. I think that there are...
I think people who, own guns, who are very, pro-gun, don't want to kill innocent people, but they want to keep their guns. So that's what it is.
I just don't like the argument of I need to have a gun because someone else might have a gun and try to come into my house. And it's just like, yeah, but if they don't have a gun, then why do you need to have a gun?
And if they have a gun and they're better than you, then they'll still kill you.
Well, it's just like, I don't like that argument. Like, you don't need to have something just because on the off chance someone else has something. If that object is completely taken out of the picture, then you don't have to have it.
You can always just own an alligator. No one's gonna go into your yard if you have an alligator. Own something like
get a moat.
Get a moat. Own a bunch of spiders.
Learn how to train a dragon.
Yeah, no one's gonna come to your house if you own a bunch of spiders.
Yeah, cover your house with like those gigantic Wolfgang spiders. Or whatever
no
the fuck they're
one
called.
will fuck with you if you own a whole bunch of spiders. In 1997, a documentary film about Yoshi's death called "The Shot Heard Around the World" by Christine Choi came out. And so that also revived a little bit more interest in what happened. But I mean, it was in 1997, so obviously the story is kind of like a quote dead story. Less people care about it now.
Well, yeah, because there's been plenty more shootings. Not to say that his shootings aren't important, but there's just been many more shootings.
So after the Florida school shooting and the March for Our Lives rally, which I think happened in the last year or two, Yoshi's mom, Mako, pleaded for sensible gun control, said, I was moved by the high school students challenging the government on the gun control issues. I felt something was changing at the bottom. I hope adults who have common sense take action with them for the U.S. to be a safer country. The future is young. Adults should treasure the wish of young people for their peaceful future.
Yep.
And that's
It's
very
true.
reasonable.
It's very, very true. Because, like, and that's where the change is going to happen. Because, listen, to those of us that are 30 that are looking like, oh man, our future just looks so bleak because of, like, why we're blaming the baby boomers, which is really like, it's
But be
just
the
a
change you
generational
want to
thing.
see.
But it's just like, they're going to die off soon. And then we will step in and have the power. So can we just make sure that we have our shit together so that we don't keep fucking up? Like, there's going to be a big change coming.
Don't give up.
Within the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to happen. We just have to, like, we're laying down the groundwork. It's not always going to be like this.
So I wanted to just go back into reference with,
Hopefully.
I guess, yeah. I want to go back into reference with, like, I guess, gun control laws in Japan versus America. So Japan, with their much stricter gun control laws, had 6 gun-related deaths in 2014. Japan is a country of 127 million people, and an estimated total of 710,000 guns are held by Japanese citizens, illegally or legally.
Yeah.
That same year, the U.S. had 33,599 gun-related deaths with a population of 318 million. So even though, yes, it's almost 3 times the amount, it's not like there was only 18 people killed. That's significantly more than 18 people.
No, but it's also like a huge societal thing. Like, Americans are just brought up with different media, different education, different morals, different values, different everything. West culture is not the best culture.
No. But I mean, like, there are other countries who are westernized who don't have guns, like the UK.
Yeah.
And Canada has less gun violence for sure as well.
Yeah, we have some, but like,
no, it's much less.
It's much less.
But I mean, your population is also less. Just, like, I get it.
I just look at all these other countries that don't have any guns or like doing all this shit, and it's just like, see, you don't need to have them. No one's like, there's a lot of stabbies coming up.
Because like the argument is always, well, the bad people will own guns, and I'm like, but bad people will always own something to kill you if they want to.
Yeah,
they don't even need guns nowadays to kill you.
It's just like, sometimes people break into their house, and the reason why you got shot with the gun was because you had the gun.
Yeah.
And then they managed to get a hold of it. Like, I don't know. I never grew up in a situation where I ever was worried about guns.
See, I did, because I grew up during the LA riots. So I think we did own a gun, and I have a very vivid memory of playing with one. And I hope it isn't. I hope it's like a, now that I think about it, it's kind of weird. But anyways, like during that time, you know, the Koreans were heavily armed. You know, the other people in East LA were also heavily armed. And it was of the times, and it was at the the early 1990s.
Yeah.
So it's very recent. But during that time, like, I grew up thinking that you needed a gun to protect yourself. But since then, it hasn't felt like that.
No. And it's all based off of like how the society feeds into like that mentality. And I bet you down in like the southern states, and well, actually, I really don't know what states are like super pro gun control. I assume it's the southern states.
I assume it's always like it's always like a red state for sure, because they're usually, it's aligned with like whatever party you, and I think that's why, and that's why gun control is very political. And this,
because I think that there's plenty of liberals that like are pro-gun.
You could be very socially liberal, but still pro-gun control and not want to take away everyone's gun. But you don't feel like assault weapons are necessary?
Like, it's just everyone has like their own.
Everyone has a right to their own opinion. Obviously, I strongly feel like there should be more gun control reform, as do you. But obviously people out there don't. So
I don't think people should be shooting anybody.
No.
And I don't.
No matter what side you're in, you shouldn't just shoot anyone.
Like, people just don't need you. You don't need it. Stop killing people. Just please stop killing people.
In general, yeah.
In general.
But that's never going to stop. And that's why this
No.
podcast will go on forever, because people will always die.
Because people just keep on dying.
So, yep. That's my story.
Well, thanks for that. I'm sure our commenters will love us. And I'm sure we'll get so many lovely comments on YouTube. Oh, man. Okay. All right. So I'm going to tell a story. I've recently discovered that I tend to really enjoy people that have fake names, because I have always wondered what it cannot. I'm sure now in like the 2000s and stuff like that, it can't be easy for you to just like decide, hey, you know what? I don't like this life anymore. I don't like my name. I'm just going to like pack my bags up and like run off to another country and just assume another person's life.
I think you can. It is still easy as long as you never take up any
I think
social
now
media.
if you have money,
Yeah.
you can get the documents, because I would feel like the hardest things to obtain would be like social insurance numbers and those documents like a passport. Because
Silk Road isn't around anymore, but I'm pretty sure there's still things out like
and
that.
It was probably super easy to do back in the 30s, and it's just, I've always been super fascinated by people that do stuff like that.
I know like our passports got stolen last
Ooh.
year.
My
So
passport got stolen too.
yeah, so I think from what everyone's told me is that you get a lot of money for that. They'll just change out your stuff. But I reported it missing
They
and
just, like,
stolen
change out the
immediately. I don't know
photo.
what they do with it, but apparently that's high money if you get stolen passports.
Interesting.
Don't steal
Didn't know that.
passports though, because a
Yeah,
fucking
we're-
dick move, guys.
Yeah, we're not trying to give you money advice here. That's not what this podcast is
Bad
about.
money advice.
Okay, so I'm doing a kind of, well, you know what? It's a little bit more local than some of the stories you've claimed have been
Yes.
local. So Albert Johnson Walker was born in 1946 in Paris, Ontario, Canada.
Oh.
And for those of you that don't know, we're located out of London, Ontario, and Paris, Ontario is real close by. So he was a high school dropout, and after working numerous jobs, he eventually was hired on as a bank teller for a trust company. And then he started a little side hustle where he began filing other people's tax returns for them. He eventually would quit his job and then open up his freelance bookkeeping business called Walker Financial in Woodstock, Ontario.
Ooh, that's even closer.
Yeah, that's even closer. That's how local this is. Over the next decade, Walker Financial grew into a 6-branch operation with about 30 employees. However, in 1986, after a stock deal that Albert had invested in collapsed, he attempted to start hiding his losses by defrauding around 70 Canadian clients to the tune of $3.2 million.
Jesus, he went all for it.
Yes.
Didn't want to defraud a little, wanted to go all the way.
He then, without his wife's knowing, took out a second mortgage on their house, started transferring money into a Cayman Islands suite, and then left his wife and 2 daughters and fled to Europe, claiming to go on a skiing trip with his 15-year-old daughter, Sheena, who would later pose as his wife.
Ew.
And then in 1993, Albert was officially charged in Canada with 18 counts of fraud, theft, and money laundering.
Did he marry his daughter too?
They tell everyone that they're married, and not that he's her or that she's his daughter, but they just, this is my wife. Here's my wife.
And that was her wife.
Let me do the story. So he gets charged with 18 counts of fraud, theft, and money laundering. He would later become Canada's most wanted criminal and the second most wanted by Interpol.
Ooh.
So
He's an overachiever criminal.
yeah.
Yes.
So he leaves, and then after he leaves, his wife is like, a couple weeks go by, and she's like, "Hey, I haven't heard from my husband." And then suddenly, she starts peeking at some finances and realizes she's got nothing. And then all of these clients start realizing that they just got scammed out of all their money. But meanwhile, in England, Albert has settled down in Harrogate with his daughter wife, Sheena. And during their time there, Sheena has 2 children. The paternity is unknown. And
unknown.
they're to me, I don't see what the big deal is. I don't know why it needs to be talked about. It's so clearly what's going on. But in every article that I read, more than once they talked about how the paternity is not unknown about her children. And it's just like, her children are not the topic of conversation when it comes to what this fucking guy did. Like, there's so much worse. I feel really bad for these kids. I feel really bad for his daughter. I think it builds
his character, though. Yeah. Like, describing the fact that he ran off with his own daughter and then procreated with her says a lot about his character.
Yeah. So Albert changed his name to David Wallace Davis.
Oh my God, David Wallace.
David Wallace Davis, claiming to be a wealthy American entrepreneur. Eventually, he becomes friends with Elaine Boyes, who was a receptionist for a fine arts auctioneer, and then her boyfriend Ronald Joseph Platt, a TV repairman. And they would often get together, and they would talk about how Elaine and Ronald wanted to go back to Canada. Ronald apparently loved Canada so much he even had a maple leaf tattoo on the back of his hand. And Albert was like, "Hey, let's set up this business, and I'll pay for you and your lady to move back to Canada, and you guys can like go on all these business trips, and it'll be really great. But first, you got to give me your driver's license, credit card, signature stamp, and birth certificate, so that I can register this new business for us."
Doesn't sound shady at all. Okay.
And Ronald was like, "Sure," and
my
hands
goodness.
it all over.
Don't give your ID to anyone else, guys.
Now, I think this was in the. This was in the 90s.
Oh my God. That's even like, you should know better at that point. Maybe in like the 50s, you're a little bit more trusting, but like the 90s, you're like, come on.
So he has them all over, and then Albert goes and creates a company called Cavendish Corporation. So he does actually create a company, but he uses it to start laundering money. So as Ronald and his girlfriend Elaine are over in Canada, he's sending them money from his Swiss bank account and then getting them to forward him back euro dollars. Like, he's getting these people to transfer the Swiss into Canadian, the Canadian into euro, and then
launder his money. Yeah.
Launder his money, when they are just like, well, we have no idea, like, what's going on here.
Yeah.
So the couple then like packs up all their shit and they head off to Canada, and then Albert then packs up Sheena, moves into a home in Essex, settles into their new life as Ronald and Noelle Platt.
Ronald, all right.
Ronald and Noelle Platt. So 3 years and a couple incestuous babies later, Albert's new life ran into a snag because Ronald had run out of money and he had broken up with Elaine. And so he returned to England to reconnect with Albert, completely unaware that Albert had been living as Ronald the entire time. Fearing that he would then get caught for all the scams that he had been running for the last 3 years, and then obviously get caught by the police for everything that he was doing in Canada, Albert takes Ronald out on a fishing trip in July 1996, and while out to sea on his yacht, Albert hits Ronald over the head with an anchor, ties it around his waist to weigh him down, and then dumps his body into the sea. 2 weeks later, on July 28th, Ronald's body was discovered in the English Channel by a local fisherman named John Kopic.
Ruined his day.
Yes.
I wonder how many fishermen find dead bodies.
A lot, probably. Like, so much. And probably a lot of body parts and not like whole bodies.
Like a hand or a foot.
Yeah. Well, a hand was sticking up.
Oh,
there's a lot of hands.
Body. The whole body.
Well, they did get the whole body. But the only thing that was identifiable on the body was a Rolex wristwatch. And since Rolex movements all have serial numbers and special engravings, the police were able to trace the service records back to Ronald Joseph Platt.
I'm surprised he didn't take his Rolex.
I don't think he thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, he still had all of his clothes on and everything. It was just like there wasn't any ID. And so he probably just didn't think about the Rolex
jewelry.
But also, we're talking about a guy who is fucking rich. Like, he swindled out $3.2 million.
Yeah.
Plus, like, he had been like, there's a whole bunch of money that's being moved around. They didn't know how much money that he actually had, and he was living up, like, he had a yacht and he was living up this like rich life in Essex, which I imagine wasn't very cheap. So it was probably not an expensive Rolex. Possibly. Yep. And so he was like, looked down on it or just never thought about it. I don't know, but it was his downfall. They were able to trace the records, the service records back to Ronald. But then the police were able to narrow down the date and time within a small margin of error of when the murder happened by examining the watch calendar, because this particular moment only had a reservation of 2 to 3 days of operation when inactive. And I don't know if you know anything about Rolexes,
No.
but they stay moving by you moving your wrist.
Okay.
So you continuously kind of wind it during the day. But if you were to just take it off and like lay it down, within 2 days the batteries would die and you would need to rewind it.
Okay.
So they were able to count backwards from the time that it stopped working, and bam, now they knew
When he died.
When he died.
Yes.
Or at least when his body stopped moving in the water. So, after doing some investigation, the police find Albert's mobile phone number on a reference letter that Ronald had given to an agent company. And so they call up Albert, and he is like super helpful, even went to the police station voluntarily. He tells them that as far as he's aware, Ronald had run off to France. The police seem to buy the story at first, but then eventually they try to contact Albert later, who's, by the way, still going by the fake name of David Davis, to the police. And in order to clear up a few matters, they go by his house. However, nobody's home. So they're like, all right, let's go talk to the neighbors, see if maybe the neighbors know where he's been. And the neighbors are all like, we don't know a David Davis.
We know a Noel.
We know a
And
Ronald
Ronald,
Platt,
yeah.
and his wife Noel. They live next door. And then they tell the police that, quote unquote, Ronald has a yacht in Devon and to go look for him there. So the police immediately get suspicious and are like, this dude did it. But now they got to prove it. And then a few months later, on October 31st, 1997, the police finally track down Albert and arrest him on the suspicion of Ronald's murder. And at the time of the arrest, they find Sheena stuffing gold bars into a diaper bag, trying to flee.
Oh my goodness.
And Sheena would then later testify against her father, but excusing her own behavior by claiming that she had been hypnotized by her and was suffering from Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
Which probably could have.
I don't.
However,
yeah.
I had read an article where they were talking about, like, I guess right before he had run away, the wife and him, his wife Barb and him, had been having some issues, and they were going to separate the children, or there was like a custody thing. And Sheena was the only child that wanted to leave with Albert, by saying that, like, her mom never gave her any attention and her father always showered her with affection.
Oh.
So, like, that's probably why he took Sheena, and he probably had, like, pegged Sheena probably before she was 15 and had already been, like,
But
he had already been planning it.
Yeah, and he's probably already, like, I guess, like, from birth kind of started, like, kind of molding her to be this type of person. So it's one of those things where it's like you can't blame her too much because look at her father and look what he did to her. And
it's,
you're more sympathetic towards her because of that.
she is a victim in this. Like, she didn't kill anybody.
No.
She was essentially kidnapped by her own parent and then raped. Supposedly, allegedly, we have no proof that the babies are hers. However, they presented as a married couple.
Yes.
Like that was his wife, and Ronald Platt is the name on the birth certificate of all of the children.
So probably, but
probably.
we can't say for sure because it's not 100% confirmed, but it's probably 100% confirmed.
Yeah. In June 1998, Albert is found guilty of murder and embezzlement, and by 2000, bankruptcy trustees were able to only recover $500,000 of the embezzled money, but authorities said that they had no idea how much he stole, but they theorized that there was still $150,000 in gold bars hidden somewhere. I think Sheena has it.
I think she does too.
Sheena took that shit.
Yeah.
And Sheena and her children were allowed to return to Canada. And in February 2005, Albert was also returned back to Canada, and the Canadian police stated that they fully intend to proceed with the 37 counts of fraud and theft. However, in 2007, he was only charged with 19 counts of fraud, but he was sentenced to 4 years in jail and 1 year concurrent for violations of the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. And he is currently living out his life sentence for the murder in Kingston Penitentiary.
Oh, so he's serving it here, which is okay.
Europe sent him back because he was on Canada's most wanted list. Like, Canada wanted him. It took a long time, like, because he served 7 years. there, but then Canada finally got him back, and then they charged him because they wanted to charge him with the crimes because they needed to in order to start the bankruptcy stuff, so that they could get some of the money back to the people that they,
and I'm pretty sure he
had
still has
swindled.
more money in other places.
Oh yeah,
for
because
sure. Rich people know how to hide their money very well.
they found a lot of it in the Cayman Islands.
It could be in the Swiss bank account still too.
There's probably still a lot, but
Panama,
I bet you Sheena
has the
all
gold bars.
of it.
She has access to all of it.
Yeah, I probably did. And she's probably like, innocent.
There's a speculation corner.
Speculation corner. But if I was her, I probably would never have touched that money.
Nope.
But I would be leaving it. I would be somehow trying to figure out how to give that money to my kids later on.
Speculation corner.
Yeah, speculation corner.
And also not really actually advice corner. This isn't real advice.
Yeah, no, it's not real
just what we're
advice. It's just
thinking.
like, like in that situation, that's just prudent planning, in my opinion.
For to escape.
But I'm sure she was able to provide a lot of information, and the wife was able, or the Barbara, the first wife, she was able to get a lot of the bank statements and was able to find a lot of the Cayman money and all of that. But
I wonder what the relationship's like now between the mom and daughter.
I from what I understand, I think that they're all living together and they're raising the kids.
Okay.
But that was at the time of that article, the kids were still like 7 years old, so that must have been an older article.
It's changed a lot since then.
But it probably, like, I can't imagine either is mad at the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like the daughter, they just, it was the dad.
He was very manipulative and he had to go kill someone.
Yeah, that's my story on Albert Johnson Walker,
Very
person that likes to like,
and super local.
yeah, and quick.
Quick and local.
All right. Well,
Thanks for listening
yes, thanks for listening.
and hope you're still alive and not in jail next week
Yep.
so you can listen to our next episode.
Don't kill anybody
do
with a
they
gun.
have podcasts in jail?
They
have
probably,
internet
I mean, they
access?
probably do have podcasts in jail. People can don't people know it's the audiobooks. That's what they do in jail.
Oh, okay. I don't know if podcasts were also.
Well, I
allowed
mean,
in jail.
according to, no, they've got radio shows. I was going to say.
I'm not sure if they listen and anyone in a
probably
jail
do.
has ever
Some
listened
jail.
to this podcast, but maybe. So hopefully you're not dead next week.
Hopefully you're not dead.
Don't die. All right. Bye.
Bye.